Welcome back, guys, to another live stream. I wanted to do this video where it talks about the most dangerous interview ever recorded. I follow this channel that's called Be Inspired, and they post a lot of stuff on it that I really enjoy. So let's see what this video is about. It's actually my first time watching this, so yeah.
We know something about the mind, clearly, and about this information field.
There was a little device that you could wear under the collar, which was provided to all of our personnel that we needed to make sure had clear thinking that they could carry with them, and it would send a signal, and they were carried by all types of diplomats and military personnel.
There's also a technique involved such that one can do it without the device if one learns.
Yeah, you can learn to hold your mind pretty much in whatever mode you want.
This is Dr. Pete Peterson. Project Camelot called him one of the most important whistleblowers they ever interviewed. He spent decades inside classified programs with access to information the public was never meant to hear.
Is there any other tissue?
I love these types of videos, especially the fact that when you get to learn about all the top projects that the CIA has done throughout like the past 40, 50 years. There's so many things that they do behind closed doors that we just don't know as the general public. And once in a while, you'll get like leaks and stuff, or like a document surfaces where you'll get to know. But I love stuff like this. It's very intriguing. Call me a conspiracy theorist or whatever you want. But I think, you know, just as a person and where the world is, where the world was, and where the world is especially headed, I think everyone shouldn't always believe not only what they see on the news, but also do their own research and see what's really happening. But let's continue.
In the body besides the heart that acts like neurological tissue?
Oh, absolutely. The pineal and pituitary are mostly melanin. The melanin in the pineal is very, very, very good at picking up informational signals.
Especially in spirituality, the pineal gland is very crucial. Isn't that what they also refer to as the Burma's cave?
Those are signals that are taken out of a signal that appears to be everywhere, every when. It coheres that for the person.
The publication of this interview was delayed for months. Peterson became worried. The meeting lasted 2 full days. They talked extensively off the record and then recorded nearly 4 hours on camera. And something in those 4 hours troubled him. He believed the material was too sensitive and that releasing it could put everyone involved in danger. But Camelot took the risk and published it anyway, all uncut.
There's like many things, right? There's that aspect, oh, if we release it, will the public be able to handle it? And then you have another pool of people where they're like, oh, you know, it's taxpayers' dollars, you're the government, we trusted you guys to protect us and to lead us. So there's both sides of the arguments, right? One, keeping things in secret to protect people, and then there's the other people who want transparency, right? So I personally think there should be a common ground. People should have that option of, if they want to know, they should be able to know. And people that don't want to know and they just want to live a regular life and be safe and protected, they should also have that as well.
Now, it turns out that these points, this is the lymphatic system here, and this is the lung system here. If you go clear to the end of where, and there are points up the body, if you go clear to the end of where that meridian is, they all end at a tooth root. The teeth are piezoelectric. When you squeeze a piezoelectric material, it generates a voltage. Or if you take a piece of piezoelectric material and apply a voltage, it expands or contracts. The teeth are piezoelectric. So that's why you should take very good care of your teeth and don't get a root canal unless you absolutely have to have it. And not that you'll die, but your health will go down. They could have got rid of tooth decay with an absolutely benign substance, very...
Well, see, that's the thing, right, when it comes to healthcare. Like what Peter just mentions, that you shouldn't get a root canal unless if you really need to, because it will bring your health down. But even from the beginning, right, they've always done things to make sure we're not connected or we don't elevate on a higher level, right? Like, for example, we're supposed to be known at, like, we're supposed to walk barefoot, right? Because we're supposed to be grounded, and we're supposed to be, because, you know, we get energy from the ground and stuff, right? What did they do? The first thing they did was they gave us shoes, right? And then even in our toothpaste, they put what, fluoride, right? They're always doing things to make sure that we are completely as far away from spirituality as much as we can be. Even if you look at, like, I'm not Christian or anything, but I know these old churches, they have those, those pipes that are like right next in rows. They have these huge pipes. Like, the reason why they used that back in the day in churches was they used sound therapy, right? And what it does is it helps you heal. Even, like, they have done many experiments using sound to heal people. Sound, vibrations, frequency, it's all connected. And what did they do? Like, if you look at the churches in recent time, none of them have that. So
inexpensively and totally non-negatively in the body. One drop put in a slice of bread eaten daily and you have no caries whatsoever. There's no tooth decay.
I'll be honest with you, Peterson revealed a lot in this interview, and some of it I had never heard before. It genuinely intrigued me. I didn't know about that type of oil. I didn't know about the mind entrainment techniques he described, and there was a lot more coming straight from classified projects. But before we continue, I want to take a moment and thank you for the comments on the last video. Though some of you believe I'm AI generated. So let me just say this again, loud and clear, I'm not AI. I'm a real person. Someone mentioned that people probably
yes, I know you're not AI.
think I'm AI because the background looks almost too clean, but this is simply the space I record. I can even change the lighting in the background. Now I've got to make sure that I get it back to the right one. I even play guitar in my spare time, if this helps me be human.
I have a guitar, I got it as a gift, and I don't know how to play it. I suck at it. But I would love to learn. I would love to learn how to play the guitar and the piano.
And the guitar that's sometimes in the background of our videos is also real, and any guitarist out there will be able to verify that the chords that I'm playing really are the chords that I'm playing. I personally like to keep things simple and not have too much going on in the background. And look, I understand the confusion. It's become really hard to tell what's real and what's AI generated these days, but this channel has been around since 2015, and we don't do things like that. I do use AI to make research and other tasks a lot easier. Sometimes I generate images with AI to explain certain things better in a video, and that's why I sometimes check that AI box on YouTube. I mostly use Claude for research and other tasks. I know people are divided on AI, but for me it's simply a tool that makes my work easier. And if you want to learn how to use it,
I mean, I'm not against AI, but I think we should move consciously on how we use AI and what we use it for, especially when it comes to security, when it comes to kids, and all that stuff.
AI the right way, Outskill is the perfect place to start. They're hosting the Claude Mastery Sprint, a full deep dive into Claude, its real use cases and 10 plus other AI tools this weekend from 10 AM to 7 PM EST. They're sponsoring this video and they've made it completely free for my audience. Unity before it closes.
The DNA is merely a factory that generates the physical part of the body. The DNA gets its information from the informational field and how to do it. So you find that the informational field is eternal and holds the spirit or the being or the information of the person in perfection. Whereas the perfection then runs through the factory. If the factory is missing the thing that puts...
I feel like throughout evolution, we have altered our DNA just from, obviously through natural evolution, right? But also up in the recent years, I would say just because of the types of food that we've been eating and all that stuff.
The wheels are going to fall off, if you would.
Let's slow down for a moment, because this idea changes everything if it's true. According to Peterson, your body is not built from the DNA alone. The DNA is just the machine that does the work. The instructions come from somewhere else, from what he calls the information field. Think of it like this. A printer doesn't decide what to print, it receives the document from a computer. In Peterson's view, your DNA is the printer, and the informational field is the computer that holds hold the original file. A perfect copy of you, without errors, without disease. And here's the part that made me stop. Peterson claimed they ran experiments where they generated this field around a person's body, and the body started acting as if the DNA were perfect. According to him, genetic diseases simply went away because the field held the correct information and the body followed it. Now, if information...
Yeah, just like remember how I mentioned about sound therapy, like we can use different sounds to heal different parts of us. Even like there was an experiment that somebody took a glass of water and they were speaking to the water. It was, I think, used for like a manifestation technique. Even something so simple like the music that we listen to, right? The file is what, like 320 kbps. Even that, the music that we, whether it's a rock song, R&B, pop, hip hop, the frequency that it's made at, it's actually, we're not supposed to listen to it, just because of the fact that it could be the most sweetest song, but that frequency that they make that music at is known to keep us like in an angry state.
Really drives the body, then the body should have more than one place where information is processed. And strangely enough, science has found exactly that. Researchers discovered that the heart contains its own network of neurons, the same type of cells found in your brain. Some scientists even call it the little brain. And
that's very true because what's that mind, heart, and soul connection? Like obviously your brain has neurons, but your heart also has its own brain. And when you're coherent, like, especially when it comes to like manifestation and stuff, what you feel, what you think, especially emotionally, mentally, and especially in your heart, it's like a few different things coming together, right? And when all of those three are coherent, your heart, mind, and soul, you increase not only your frequency, but your chances of manifesting what you want. The law of manifestation is a secondary law. The first law is the law of vibration. Everything operates and functions at a certain frequency, right? For example, you want a certain house, right? You got to be operating on a certain frequency. You want a certain car, you got to be operating on a certain frequency. And that's where everything is, right? Energy and frequency.
This might explain something doctors have struggled with for decades. There are reports of heart transplant patients who develop new memories, new tastes, even new fears after the surgery. Things that seemed to belong to their donor. Mainstream medicine has no accepted explanation for this. But if the heart really processes information...
Oh, that's crazy. You see that after surgery, they develop what the person had, like the donor. Like for example, if you were getting somebody's heart, whatever fears that they might have or their taste buds, what they enjoy and whatnot, you probably develop that. And there's no way to, like from a science point of view, there's no way to actually prove that, right? You can't just take like, run a swab or something.
The mystery starts to look different. In that interview, they mentioned an experiment with a raspberry, and it sounded so strange that I had to look it up myself. Well, I found it. The experiment was reported in Russia around the year 2000 by a researcher named Budakovsky, and here's what he did. First, you need to know what a callus is. When a plant gets sick, it can grow a tumor, a lump of disorganized cells that no longer know what they're supposed to be. That was the starting point, a raspberry tumor. According to reports, Budakovsky took a healthy raspberry plant and recorded its tissue on a hologram using a red laser. A hologram stores the complete three-dimensional information of an object in light. Then he transmitted that hologram to the tumor. He was essentially showing the sick cells the information of a healthy plant, and after several months, the tumor...
I love these types of videos because it sheds a different perspective on life, right? Everyone is so busy and engulfed in what they have going on in life that we don't pause and see that, look, I get it, everybody's trying to make it in life, right? You have families, you have school, work, kids, whatever it is. At the end of the day, all of these things affect us, right? The stuff that they put in our food, all these experiments that the CIA or all these other agencies conduct, it eventually affects us.
The tumor was gone. The disorganized cells had rearranged themselves. The callus developed into a normal, healthy raspberry plant. And keep in mind that this was done without chemicals or genetic modification, just light, carrying information. According to the researchers who documented it, plant science cannot explain this result. Now think about what this means. The 6 cells had broken instructions, but when they received the correct information from outside, they simply followed it. Exactly what Peterson described with the informational field and the DNA. But let's go back to the mind entrainment part, because if information can reshape a plant, you have to ask what it can do to a human mind.
Part of what you want to do for mind control is get your mind.
I wonder what kind of information they were transmitting with this machine, this Fullerton thing. I wonder, were they sending like specific messages, or were they trying to create a certain emotion or a feeling?
In a certain frequency, but that's old style mind control. And what you want to do now, basically, if you want to look at neurolinguistic programming, uses the principles of neurolinguistic programming, is much more powerful than getting a brainwave entrainment. Brainwave entrainment will drop the IQ, it'll drop the attention span, it'll change the memory. So there are a number of things that can be done there, but what we use now is a thing that changes the way the brain is attached to itself and the way the brain hooks together, and we just change the neural pathways. You can cause a person to forget, you can cause a person to do things that they have no intention of doing. You can make a stimulus that would cause...
See, that's crazy. Imagine just like, let's say you're like on the East Coast, right? And then on the West Coast, there's this big satellite thing where they're sending waves, right? And they're trying to get people to forget events and things like that.
One thing, like a stimulus that would cause me to reach out and grab some water and take a drink because I was thirsty, you can very quickly and easily change that stimulus to when I get thirsty, I'll reach out and grab a glass of water and pour it down my throat, or pour it down in front of my suit.
Let's stop here for a moment, because what Peterson just described is not science fiction. There are real experiments that show exactly how this works. The first one is called the Interpreter Experiment. It was done by neuroscientist Michael Gazzaniga, one of the most respected brain researchers in the world. Gazzaniga studied patients who had the connection between their 2 brain halves cut. This was a real surgery done to treat severe epilepsy, and it created a unique opportunity. In these patients, you could send information to one half of the brain without the other half knowing about it. So here is what he did. He flashed a written command to the right half of the brain, something simple like walk, and the patient stood up and started walking. But then came the important part. Gazzaniga asked the patient why he was walking. Now remember, the left half of the brain, the half that speaks, never saw the command. It had no idea why the body...
That's crazy, the fact that one side of the brain recognizes the command and then the other side doesn't.
body was moving. And yet the patient didn't say, "I don't know." His left brain instantly invented a reason. He said something like, "I wanted to get a soda." He believed it completely. His brain received a command from outside, executed it, and then created a story to make it feel like his own decision. Gazzaniga called this part of the brain the interpreter. Its job is to explain your...
That's crazy, the fact that you lied to yourself. Just, like, not obviously purposefully, but to just make sense.
To you, even when it has no idea what actually caused them. So now connect this to what Peterson said. If someone changes your neural pathways and you do something you never intended, your own brain will cover it up. It will hand you a story and you will walk away convinced it was your choice. But there is a second technique, and this one comes straight from declassified documents. In 1963, the CIA produced a secret interrogation manual. It was called Kubark Counterintelligence Interrogation. And Kubark was not a random word. It was the CIA's own code name for itself. The manual stayed hidden for over 3 decades, until it was declassified in the 1990s, after journalists filed a freedom...
Like, imagine how many experiments they must have conducted, right, in the 70s, 80s, 90s, that the general public has no idea about. I mean, I didn't know about all this stuff either until I saw this, like, started watching this video, right? So, how many other programs and have they conducted, and what are they trying to essentially do? I personally think they're trying to change the whole DNA, where they completely strip away the human from spirituality. Call me crazy, I know.
Freedom of Information request. And on page 76 of that manual, there's a technique with a strange name. The Alice in Wonderland technique, named after the Lewis Carroll novel, a story where nothing follows the rule of logic. The manual states the aim openly, to confound the expectations and conditioned reactions of the interrogatee. And then it explains the thinking behind it. A person is used to a world that makes sense, a world of continuity and logic. He clings to that world because it holds his identity together and his power to resist. So the technique attacks exactly that. According to the manual, it works best with 2 or 3 interrogators. The first one asks a question that sounds normal but is actually nonsense. Before the person can even answer, the second interrogator interrupts with a completely unrelated and equally illogical question. Sometimes both speak at once. No answer is ever acknowledged. Nothing connects to anything. And this continues day after day, for as long as necessary, until the situation becomes mentally intolerable. Here is why it works. Your mind depends on the world making sense. When nothing makes sense anymore, the mind starts to panic. It desperately searches for something stable to hold on to, and at that exact moment,
Yeah, because the human brain is known as identity. We're always trying to not only be a part of something, but even in general, we always try to categorize things. We work in systems, as like systems, order of classifications, being a part of something.
the person becomes suggestible. They start accepting whatever the interrogator offers them because any structure feels better than chaos. The manual even notes that the subject is likely to make significant admissions at this stage. Researchers who studied the document later described it plainly. This method was designed to induce states similar to psychosis without ever touching the person. Now, I want you to think about something, and this part is just my observation, so take it as that. The technique needed 2 or 3 interrogators, asking disconnected questions, giving you no time to think. Well, look at your phone. You open social media, and within 1 minute you see a war, a dancing video, a tragedy, a joke, an ad, an opinion, and breaking news that contradicts the breaking news from yesterday. Nothing connects to anything. No topic is ever finished before the next one starts. One post tells you the next one tells you everything's fine. One
Yeah, I think now more than ever, especially with technology, smartphones, social media, and all that stuff, our brain is always on system overload with information. Like, for example, all the stuff, when you're watching TV, you watch the news, right? Or let's say you're on Twitter, or you're on Instagram scrolling, or YouTube, or somebody texts you something, right? I think in human history, this is the first time where humans barely give their brain that time to rest. We're always occupying our brain with something. Obviously at work you're working, and then after school work, you have family. Or if you're in school, you have schoolwork, then family, right? Something maybe in the community, or something in the news that you might see. There always some sort or some type of information is always being thrown at us.
Tells you a food is healthy, another expert says the same food will kill you. And both videos play back to back, in the same scroll. In the interrogation room, this was done by design, to a prisoner, over days. Today, you carry the room in your pocket, and you enter it voluntarily every few minutes. And remember what the manual says happens next. When nothing makes sense anymore, the mind panics. It searches for something stable to hold on to, and it accepts whatever's offered, because any structure feels better than chaos. So ask yourself, when you feel lost in all that noise, and someone shows up with a simple, confident answer, how...
That's the thing with social media, right? I was having this conversation with one of my friends, like, I've been on social media since MySpace first came out. And then of course before that we had AIM and stuff. And even till this day right now, I have Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, YouTube. Even then I've never been the one to sit there on Instagram and just spend hours scrolling. Not because I don't care about, my friends and my family, but I just don't feel the need to know what people are doing every second of their life. Like, I don't need to know if one of my friends just went to Cali or Texas, or this person was at Starbucks, or this person was at, the basketball game. I think people should limit and filter what they allow into their life. And also what happens is, the biggest thing I feel like is, instead of helping build people's self-esteem and confidence, I feel like we're destroying it. Especially with, especially with females I see, right? Go get lip injections and go get fillers and like go get this surgery and all of that stuff, right? It's like you're not teaching the person to love themselves the way they are or to embrace them. I see some of these girls, they won't even go outside to throw out trash if they don't have makeup on. Like, that's how bad it's gotten. We're teaching these 14-year-old girls, like, you gotta look this way and you gotta behave this way and act a certain way. And it's like, why? A 14-year-old should not be worrying about what type of makeup they're gonna put on. They should just be enjoying life at the park with their friends. Also, like, back to the comparison thing, it's like, you see this person, let's say they took a vacation here and they drive this type of car. It's so natural and we do it so effortlessly that we don't realize that we are constantly comparing ourselves to other people, and that's also destroying your self-esteem and your confidence. And that's what's bringing you down, believe it or not. Stop comparing yourself. You're completely fine. You are good how you are. And rather than comparing, I feel like we should be empowering each other and lifting each other rather than trying to put somebody down. And instead of saying, oh, go get fillers and this and that, why can't we just tell somebody, hey, you look amazing the way you are, or I love you as a person. You're so helpful, you're so grateful. We're not teaching people to be thankful and grateful for what we have and things like that. Sorry for a little rant. Back to the video.
Carefully do you check who that someone is. Now please watch the next clip. It gets really interesting.
One of the things that Pierce writes about in The Magical Child, during the first 16 days or so after the amniotic fluid breaks, the child is exposed to electromagnetic field from the mother's heart beating, and that field is modulated by what's in the brain cells in the heart, which are the emotions, and those emotions are transferred to the child. So they thought, well, that may be true, so they went to Europe, where a lot of women have their children raised by wet nurses who nurse them on their breast, and they find out that the child takes on the emotional content of the wet nurse.
It happens in the first 16.
I believe that. I really do. Even if you see, right, how we say, oh, you're like your mother, you're like your father, right? All these things just don't pop up out of thin air, right? There's a reason why. And we all are connected energetically. We all operate on a frequency. And all these things are passed to us either, through our DNA, generation after generation. And all we're doing right now is just manipulating all these things. I truly believe what nature has created, we should just accept and not try to alter, Of course, by all means, I'm not saying don't, seek help or all of that. Don't go see a doctor, or I'm not saying any of that. But I think we should watch what we try to experiment with.
Yeah, exactly that.
The greater part of it happens within the first 16 to 18 days. And it turns out, for example, the Russians did brilliant and massive research on this, found out that if the child is born underwater, in a fluid. Remember, the child's already in a fluid. It isn't going to hurt him to be underwater. The child's born underwater in a fluid about body temperature and move up, contact with the mother to the breast, where if you look at how you would naturally hold your arms and nurture a child, the heart of the mother and the heart of the child are going to be right next to each other. The child starts picking things up. If the child is kept in that position for the first 12 to 14 hours, the child usually develops speech by 6 months of age, is able to stand on their own at 6 months of age.
Peterson mentioned a book, The Magical Child, written by Joseph Chilton Pearce.
Hold on, what's going on with my audio? Come on. Let's see if I can disconnect and then try to connect.
SAMIR disconnected.
In 1977. So I looked into it, and the book goes even deeper than what he described. Pearce spent decades studying how intelligence develops in children, and his central idea is simple. A child is born with a biological plan. a built-in program for developing astonishing capacities. But that program only runs under one condition: the child needs a safe place. And in the beginning, that safe place is one thing only: the mother's body. Pierce calls this the matrix. As long as the child feels anchored to the mother, the brain is free to explore, learn and grow at full speed. The child explores the world by standing on that safety. And there's research in the book that supports
I wonder what would happen if you kept the child completely away from the mother.
this. Pierce describes the work of Marcel Gieber, who studied infants in Uganda. These babies were carried on the mother's body day and night, in constant skin contact, and their development was weeks and even months ahead of Western babies. Exactly the kind of early development Peterson.
That's true because one of my friends was telling me that if let's say like you have a baby, right? Let's say the baby's like a few months old and stuff, and you keep it on your chest, right, skin to skin, and you're playing with it and stuff, you're likely the chances of you creating a healthy bond and a relationship and a connection with your child in the long term is exponentially higher.
Talking about. But here is the other side of it, and this is the part that concerns all of us. Pierce writes that the process can also run in reverse. When the mother lives in chronic fear or anxiety during pregnancy, her stress hormones pass straight through to the placenta. According to him, the baby is flooded with fear without any reason for it. He calls it free-floating anxiety. The child is locked into stress before even being born, and a child raised without that bond, a child without the safe place, develops differently. In Pierce's view, the energy that should go into growth gets redirected into defense. The child stops exploring the world and starts guarding against it. Instead of real bonding, you get anxious attachment. The biological plan never fully runs. And you can see this pattern everywhere today. Children growing up with a single parent who has to work all day just to keep the family alive. Children raised by grandparents while the parents work in another country. Children whose parents are physically present but mentally somewhere else, buried in their phones. In each case, the child gets the same message. The safe place is not there, and the young brain quietly shifts from growing to surviving. Now think about how many children today are born in stressful hospitals, separated from the mother in the first few hours and raised by screens instead of arms. If Pierce is right, we're not just raising anxious children, we're quietly switching off a program that nature built into every...
See, you see the last thing they said? We're switching off a program that nature built, right? This is what I'm trying to say. Like, what has been going on naturally, I feel like we should continue that process. Why would we want to interrupt that process and flow?
One of us. And that brings us back to something Peterson said at the very beginning of this video, because according to him, the body has a physical antenna for information, a small gland sitting in the center of your head.
The pineal and pituitary are mostly melanin. A type of melanin makes the skin pigment, but they're a slightly different kind of melanin. In my research, have found that the melanin in the pineal, which in Eastern medicine is the third eye, the seat of the third eye, is very, very, very good at picking up.
That's what I was talking about, the pineal gland known as the Brahma's cave, which is the third eye. That's what connects you to spirituality. And like I mentioned earlier, like with the toothpaste and stuff like fluoride, what it does is all this stuff that the food that we eat, the toothpaste, putting on shoes, all of that, it's keeping us away from our full potential. Like, people don't know, but the human body is capable of so much. It's capable of healing itself from any bacteria, virus, diseases, illness, even things that are like psychological, right? Like depression and all that stuff, right? We are so strong mentally, but I feel like, and again, by all means, obviously, I'm not giving any type of medical advice. I'm not a professional. But I feel like we, instead of moving forward and growing, I feel like every step of the way we're creating roadblocks for humanity.
up informational signals and adding a time content to them, thus subtracting a non-time content.
So, let's talk about this gland, because the story around it is stranger than most people realise. The pineal gland is tiny, about the size of a grain of rice. It sits deep in the centre of your brain, right between the two hemispheres. And it's unique because it's the only part of the brain that isn't double. You have two hemispheres, two of almost everything, but only one pineal gland. The official science is simple. The pineal gland
That's true. You have two hemispheres and everything, and you have one pineal gland.
produces melatonin, the hormone that controls your sleep. It responds to light and darkness. When night falls, it releases melatonin and your body prepares for sleep. That's the textbook version. But this small gland has fascinated people for thousands of years. In Eastern traditions, it's connected to the third eye, the center of inner vision. And in the West, the philosopher René Descartes studied anatomy and
Like as we saw, right, in that picture earlier, like how it looks identical, right, to like the Egyptians, like the Eye of Horus.
strange conclusion. He called the pineal gland the seat of the soul, precisely because it's the only structure in the brain that stands alone. Now, here's where it gets uncomfortable. The pineal gland calcifies. Calcium deposits build up inside it over time, and it calcifies more than any other organ in your body. On a brain scan, a calcified pineal gland literally shows up as a small stone in the center of your head. Autopsy studies describe the deposits as gravel. The official explanation says this is natural aging, and that the implications are unclear, but some studies have linked
I was just gonna ask, like, what causes that calcification? And I know there is ways we can get rid of it.
pineal calcification to lower melatonin, sleep problems, and even neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's. And then there's the controversial part. In 2001, a British researcher named Jennifer Luke examined the pineal glands of cadavers, and she found that the gland accumulates fluoride more than any other tissue in the body, even more than bone. Her research suggests that this accumulation may play a role
See, I was just talking about fluoride, right, with teeth. There you go.
in the calcification itself. Why would the pineal gland absorb so much? Well, unlike most of the brain, the pineal gland sits outside the blood-brain barrier. It has no shield. Whatever circulates in your blood reaches it directly. So put the pieces together. If Peterson is right, and this gland is the body's antenna for informational signals, then most people are walking around with that.
That is the antenna between us and the higher world, the spirituality.
Antenna slowly turning to stone, and that raises a question I couldn't let go of. If the antenna still worked at full power, what would we pick up?
These people, they live in a different reality.
I love this scientist. Unfortunately, he passed away in a plane crash, which I feel like, you know, was done on purpose, but yeah. Ishak Bentov, that's the scientist's name.
In a reality which is very changed, and few of them are adapted to live in this reality. So naturally, they can't function very well. So the only safe place, only good place for them would be the mental hospital, unless they can integrate their different view of reality with their daily lives. Now, if they can integrate it, then we have people like Newton, like Darwin, like Faraday. These are the so-called geniuses.
The thing that I'm not certain that we have talked about is, what is it that is evolving?
The nervous system is that thing that gives us the picture of our realities. That is, our realities, that reality that you see all around you, the flowers and the
When you guys get a chance, just watch some of his work on YouTube. This scientist, it's fascinating.
chairs and the microphones in a teacup is given to us by our senses. We don't see light which is beyond UV and beyond infrared. We hear only a limited scale of vibrations, like for instance, we hear anywhere from 52 to 20,000 maximum. In other words, all our senses are limited. So, with these limited senses, we naturally are seeing through a very narrow kind of tube, or very narrow slit in the total reality there is. Now, as we're evolving, What happens is that slit opens up more and more and more. So you see more and more of that reality, and we assume that we see different realities. They're not very different realities, but rather a very extended, broad view of one very large reality.
For Bentold, what we call reality is simply the narrow band we are tuned to. According to him, some people are tuned slightly differently, and they pick up parts of the signal that the rest of us filter out. He wrote about all of this in his book Stalking the Wild Pendulum, and whether he was right or not,
I wish he was still alive.
his model explains what you just heard in a way regular science struggles to.
Isn't it true that fluoride deadens or hardens the pineal gland?
Absolutely. There are many ways to sterilize water other than chlorine and fluorine. So I can tell you that the main thing that halide, which are chlorine, fluorine, bromine, mainly what they do in the body is congeal cholesterol into arterial plaque. It closes down the artery. That oil, one drop put in a slice of bread eaten daily, and you have no caries whatsoever. There's no tooth decay. It eliminates tooth decay.
So,
And they did
likewise,
this on thousands and hundreds of thousands of children in Europe after World War II.
So you're saying that this oil, if taken, would help to decalcify the pineal gland or somehow increase its
If the
hitting?
pineal gland is calcified by halides, yes it would. Take the hit for this.
The official story is simple. Chlorine is added to water to kill bacteria and viruses, and it works. Waterborne diseases that killed millions throughout history practically disappeared wherever water was chlorinated. Fluoride was added later to fight tooth decay. Health authorities still list water fluoridation as one of the greatest public health achievements of the last century. Chlorine and fluorine belong to the same chemical family, the halides. That part of what Peterson said is standard chemistry, but his claim goes much further. According to him, these substances congeal cholesterol into plaque and close down your arteries. And that claim you'll not find in any textbook.
See, it's like we know all these things, but yet we still, like, even in our food stuff, right? All this stuff is like FDA approved and this and that, but yet look at how many health issues we have, right?
Now, about that oil, because I went digging, and this story has in the Peterson refused to fully name the fish. He called it a bottom feeder, and mentioned the name ratfish, while hinting that even that is just a nickname. The fish he seemed to describe is real. Its scientific name is Chimera monstrosa, an ancient deep water species. And it's strange, about 60% of the fish's body weight is liver. But here is where it connects to real documented history. Peterson said the active compound in this oil was called Activator X, a name given by a researcher named Price, and that researcher existed. Weston Price was a respected American dentist in the 1930s. He traveled the world studying isolated communities that ate traditional foods and found they had almost no tooth decay. In their diets, he identified a mysterious fat-soluble compound he couldn't fully explain. He named it Activator X. For decades, nobody knew what Activator X actually was. Then, years later, researchers concluded it was most likely vitamin K2, a nutrient that does something remarkable. It helps the body put calcium where it belongs, in bones and helps
Oh wow, that's crazy. I did not know that.
keep it out of the places it doesn't belong, like arteries and soft tissue. Read that again. A compound that directs calcium away from soft tissue. Now remember what the pineal gland suffers from, calcification. After World War II, governments across Europe really did give fish liver oil to millions of children every day for years as part of public health programs. That's history. Whether it was the specific oil Peterson described, with the concentration he described, that rests on his word alone. So Peterson's claim sits right on the edge. Parts of it match real science and real history, and parts of it exist only in his testimony. But I have to tell you, this was not the most controversial thing Peterson said in his interview.
Wow, this is crazy.
Not even close. What he declared next is the reason some people wanted this recording staying hidden.
Let's put it that way. It's my conjecture that the only reason we use chloride in the water was because the politicians have already spent all of the Social Security money. So you've got to have something there so that people die at retirement age. Then because of healthcare getting better, we had to have something else that made it happen even faster, so we put fluoride in the water.
Wow.
Because they could have gotten rid of tooth decay with an absolutely benign substance, that we had a whole industry here that could go out and bring us back all we could ever use for the whole world, very inexpensively, and totally non-negatively in the body, but we didn't do that.
Well, everyone can draw their own conclusions from this one. As always, I'm not here to tell you what to believe. Do your own research, look into the thing.
That's crazy. And we think like the government and all these higher other agencies are here for us.
That caught your attention. That's it for today. Thank you for staying until the end. I really appreciate.
That's crazy, right? It's like, holy crap. What do you guys think about the video though? I'm like flabbergasted. But I'm also like not surprised because the fact that all sorts of things people, especially the government, does, right? From programs and testing things, and they want to control us and they want to know everything that we do. That's just the reality of the fact. But thank you guys for tuning in. And I'm not sure what my schedule is for tomorrow, but I'll try to go live tomorrow. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of the day and the week. Bye-bye.